One of the reasons I've been confined here is the system. When I talk about the system, I mean the government because they want to silence me. You see, they're afraid of this. You see, knowledge. Now what I can do. Do you think I'd be able to dominate? 9,000, 10,000, 15,000. He went crazy. Old Lin almost fainted upon learning of his sentence. What's all this about? Stay until the end of the video and find out. Before you start, leave your registration with the like button and subscribe. Our stories will surely captivate you. Now, activate the bell so we can give you a start. The day old Lin heard the sentence condemning him to spend the rest of his days behind bars, a mixture of tumultuous emotions took hold of him. Throughout his life, he had defied the rules and faced the law with determination. But now, for the first time, he found himself powerless against the force of the judicial system when the judge pronounced the sentence. A heavy silence fell over the courtroom. Lin, his gaze fixed on the floor, could hardly believe what he was hearing. His hands, which had once wielded guns and dispensed justice in their own way, were now handcuffed, and his fate was sealed. Rage and frustration mingled inside him as he listened to the judge's words. How could it be that after everything he had done for his gang, after all his loyalty and sacrifice, he was now sentenced to spend the rest of his life in a cold, dark cell as the reality of his situation sank in? Lin felt a deep sense of loss and despair. He had dedicated his life to protecting his people and fighting for what he believed in. But now he found himself alone, facing an uncertain and lonely future. Yet, amidst the despair, a spark of determination ignited. Lin's eyes, despite the harshness of his sentence, refused to give up. He knew that his life had taken an irreversible turn, but he still believed he could find a way to redeem himself and do some good, even from behind bars. As he was escorted out of the courtroom, Lin promised himself that he would do his best to make sense of his new reality. He knew it wouldn't be easy, that there would be moments of despair and discouragement, but he also knew he still had the ability to make a difference. Even under the most difficult circumstances, in the days and weeks that followed, Lin immersed himself in his new life in prison. As he adjusted to his surroundings, he began to look for ways to make a difference, to make a positive difference, even from behind bars. He organized classes for inmates, sharing his skills and knowledge with those willing to learn. He helped mediate disputes between prisoners, using his experience in resolving conflicts to maintain peace in the prison. He became a mentor to the younger members, offering guidance and support in a difficult and hostile environment. As time went on, Link began to feel a sense of purpose in his life in prison. Despite the limitations of his situation, he found a way to make a difference, to be someone others could trust and find comfort and support in. Even though his sentence had kept him from physical freedom, Lin found new freedom in his ability to do good. Despite the circumstances, through his actions, he showed that even in the most difficult circumstances, one can still find a way to make a difference and leave a lasting legacy. How the moment of Lin's sentencing was experienced. The courtroom was packed with inmates as Lin's sentence was handed down. The biggest gang leader, Lin, a man with a hard look and scars, who told stories of violence and survival on the streets of El Salvador. He listened calmly as the judge read the sentence. However, in the courtroom, the atmosphere was different. Lin's relatives, sitting in the front row, were visibly affected by the news they were about to receive. Lin's brothers, who had grown up with him in poverty and gang violence, looked on in disbelief as the judge announced the sentence. For them, Lin was more than a brother. He was a leader, a protector, someone they admired and feared at the same time. The news of his conviction was like a blow to the stomach, leaving him breathless and filled with pain and confusion. Lin's mother, an elderly woman with her face marked by years of suffering and worry, wept silently as she listened to the sentence. For her, the news was devastating. Despite Lin's mistakes and problems, she had always loved him and had maintained hope that one day he would return. The news of his conviction would change his life. It was like a final blow, a confirmation that his worst fears had come true. Lin's wife, a strong and determined woman who had shared her life with him for years, was also present in the courtroom. For her, the news of Lynn's conviction was a crushing blow. Despite the problems and difficulties they had faced together, she had always held out hope that one day they would have a better life. Lynn's conviction was like a deep cut to her heart, a confirmation that her dreams of a better life together had vanished forever. Lynn's children, who had grown up seeing their father as a hero, an indomitable leader who fought against injustice and protected his family, were also present in the courtroom. For them, the news of their father's conviction was like a blow to the soul. Despite everything, they had always admired their father and hoped to follow in his footsteps. Lynn's conviction was a painful reminder of the fragility of life and the consequences of the decisions we made in the courtroom. The silence was overwhelming as the judge pronounced the final sentence. Lynn's sentencing was met with a mixture of sadness, disbelief, and resignation by his family. For them, the news marked a turning point in their lives. From that moment on, they would have to face the reality of Lynn's absence and the consequences of their actions. Despite the pain and sadness, Lynn's family remained united, finding comfort and strength in each other's love and support despite the circumstances. They continued to believe in the possibility of redemption and in the hope of a better future. Lynn's sentencing was a hard blow, but it was also a moment of reflection and renewed determination to move forward no matter what obstacles came their way. What is life like today for the old man? In prison, Lynn found a new purpose by participating in rehabilitation and education programs. He began to study and work on his rehabilitation, seeking redemption and finding a way to contribute positively, even from behind bars. His positive attitude and determination impressed many of the inmates and prison guards, who began to see him differently despite the difficulties and challenges he faced in prison. Lynn found solace in literature and writing. He began to write about his experiences and reflections, putting his deepest thoughts and desires for redemption to paper. His writings became a source of inspiration for other inmates, who found in his words a light of hope amidst the darkness of prison. Lynn also found solace in religion, seeking redemption through faith and prayer. He spent hours in the prison chapel reflecting on his life and seeking the spiritual peace he so craved. His faith gave him the strength to continue forward, even in the most difficult moments of his incarceration. As the years passed, Lena's life in prison began to change. He became an example of rehabilitation and change for many of the inmates around him, inspiring us to follow his example and seek a better life. His positive attitude and determination to change his life impressed even the prison authorities, who began to consider him a unique case of successful rehabilitation. By the way, if you enjoy the video, we invite you to give us a like and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Continued. What are the 3 most difficult events that have happened to old Lynn in prison? Number 1. Attempted riot and confrontation with other inmates. One of the most difficult events that Lynn experienced in prison was an attempted riot in which he was involved during a period of unrest in the prison. Some inmates attempted to take control of certain areas, which resulted in a violent clash between rival factions. Lynn, who maintained some influence among the inmates due to his past as a gang leader, found himself caught in the middle of the chaos. Although he initially tried to stay out of the conflict, he was soon forced to take sides when his life was in danger. He faced moments of intense violence and had to make difficult decisions to protect himself and those he considered allies in prison. This event left a second impression on Lynn. He was forced to confront the brutality and violence that had been such an integral part of his gang life. It made him realize that even in prison, he could not escape the consequences of his past actions and that he would have to constantly fight to survive in such a hostile environment. Number 2. Revelations about the fate of former gang members. Another event that deeply affected LN in prison was the revelation of the fate of some of his former gang mates over the years. Many of his gang members have been captured or killed, and Lynn had been forced to confront the reality that his actions had devastating consequences for those he once considered family. However, in prison, Lynn received news that shook him to his core. He learned that some of his fellow gang members had been killed in gang vendettas or clashes with authorities. These revelations led him to question the path he had chosen in life and reflect on the true human cost of his actions. For Lin, this news was a painful reminder of the lives lost and families torn apart due to gang violence. It made him realize that even though he was in prison, he still had a chance to make peace with his past and try to redeem himself. Somehow, number 3, confrontation with his own mortality. The third strongest event that Ellen experienced in prison was a direct confrontation with his own mortality in a violent incident inside the prison. Lin was seriously injured and found himself on the verge of death. During this time, he had to face the possibility that his life was coming to an end and reflect on the legacy this event would leave behind. It was a moment of profound introspection for Lin, who was forced to confront his deepest fears and regrets. He realized that despite everything he had done in his life, he still had the opportunity to change and make peace with himself and with those he had hurt. Thus, we reached the end of this video. If you liked it, I invite you to give us a like so we can continue making more videos like this. Also, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss out. Don't miss any of our new videos. I wish you a great day. Until next time.